Imagine that, a small, overlooked piece of pocket change suddenly turning someone's life upside down. You could be holding one right now without even realizing it all started in a tiny minting facility back in 1980. No one could have imagined that a standard Washington quarter could hide a secret so valuable. But it does, and the story begins with a very specific mint mark. The letter P stamped so subtly on the coin's face that most people overlook it. Hidden minting errors, a slight doubling in the date, a minuscule misalignment. These are the tiny details that separate ordinary quarters from million-dollar treasures. Collectors who have stumbled across this coin describe it as surreal. One man, digging through a jar of coins he had stored for decades, thought he had found a dull, worn quarter. He was about to throw it into the donation pile when a glint caught his eye. A tiny anomaly in the mint mark made him pause. That pause changed everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He took the coin to a dealer who immediately recognized it as one of the rarest 1980p Washington quarters ever discovered. The dealer's eyes widened. He told the collector this coin could fetch millions at auction, and that wasn't an exaggeration. The coin market exploded with whispers and excitement as news spread. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on these quarters before they vanished forever. You need to understand, this isn't just about a shiny metal disc. This is about history, craftsmanship, and the tiny imperfections that make some coins priceless. When coins were produced in 1980, the mint was experimenting with new dyes, new processes, and sometimes mistakes happened. These mistakes, nearly invisible to the untrained eye, became the gold mine for collectors. One tiny doubling of the mint mark, one slightly off-center strike. Suddenly, an ordinary quarter becomes a million-dollar miracle, and yet, so many people miss it. They hand over their coins, or worse, throw them away, never realizing that this quarter, small, forgotten, and unassuming, could be worth more than a house. Some of the most shocking auction stories are almost unbelievable. One quarter, found in a drawer alongside a stack of other 1980p quarters, sold for nearly $1 million. The buyer didn't just pay for metal or face value. They paid for the story, the rarity, and the fact that this coin represented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Can you imagine holding something in your hand that someone else would give $1 million for? That's the power of this coin. Not every 1980p Washington quarter is worth millions. You have to know what to look for. The mint mark is tiny, but crucial. Look for an unusual doubling in the P. Check the alignment of the date. Examine the surface for any unusual ridges or markings. Even seasoned collectors have overlooked these details. One man cleaned a coin, thinking it was just tarnished, and nearly erased its million-dollar potential. But there's hope. If you know what to look for, if you pay attention to the tiny details, you could be holding the coin that changes everything. Imagine discovering it in your own pocket change or in a dusty jar at home. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle, and yours could too. The fascination with these coins isn't just about money. It's about the hunt, the thrill, the chance that something ordinary is hiding something extraordinary. Collectors around the country spend years searching, examining, and learning how to identify these rare treasures. They pore over images, compare mint marks, and study subtle differences that most people don't even notice, and the demand keeps growing. Dealers are scouring collections, buying quarters from estates, and even making offers that seem absurd for what most people consider junk. The pressure is intense. If you ever find one of these coins, don't rush to sell. Study it, authenticate it, and understand its history, because the value isn't just in the metal. It's in the rarity, the story, and the million-dollar dream it represents. Collectors describe a moment of disbelief the first time they see one. They pick up the coin, examine the mint mark, and the doubling. Their heart races. They feel a connection to the past, to the minting process, and to the countless other collectors who would give everything to find one dot. And that's the magic of the 1980p Washington quarter. It's a reminder that treasures can hide in plain sight. Your drawer, your jar of coins, even your pocket change could contain a secret waiting to be discovered. The excitement isn't just about wealth. It's about history, rarity, and the thrill of uncovering something no one else has. Compare the edges of the date. Are there tiny inconsistencies or raised surfaces that feel unusual? Examine the coin under bright light. These tiny details are why this quarter is worth up to $1 million. And remember, cleaning the coin or handling it carelessly can destroy its value. Treat it like a fragile, priceless artifact, because it is. The 1980p Washington quarter isn't just a coin. It's a doorway to a potential fortune. Every collector, every dealer, and every auction house knows it. And the most shocking part? This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a single coin in your hand, ordinary at first glance, and then discovering it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1987 P. Washington quarter dollar, a coin so hidden in plain sight, yet so incredibly valuable, it left collectors speechless. The story begins in a small town in Ohio, where a retired teacher named Harold was sorting through decades of loose change he had collected from his students. Among the pennies, nickels, and dimes, one quarter caught his eye. It was a 1987 P. Washington quarter, perfectly circulated, but something about it didn't sit right. The lettering seemed off, slightly doubled in a way that was almost imperceptible. He almost set it aside, thinking it was just a tiny minting error, but a hunch told him to dig deeper. Collectors were shocked when Harold took the coin to a local dealer. The dealer, a man who had seen thousands of coins in his life, froze for a moment. He examined it under his loupe and whispered a word that sent chills down Harold's spine. Rare. Rare isn't a word you hear every day when it comes to a 1987 quarter. Most people assume coins from the 1980s are common, but this one was hiding a secret that had gone unnoticed for decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Harold's coin was authenticated and graded by top experts, who confirmed something extraordinary. The 1987 P quarter had a subtle, yet dramatic, minting anomaly known as a double die obverse, a rare misstep during production that made the details of George Washington's portrait appear doubled. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it completely when they glance at their change. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers from across the country were calling, offering incredible sums to get their hands on the coin. One auction house even predicted that a coin of this exact type could fetch over $1 million in the right market. Imagine, what started as a humble quarter in a retired teacher's jar could now be a ticket to unimaginable wealth. Harold's story isn't unique in its emotional impact. Stories like this have inspired thousands of collectors to check their own pockets, drawers, and old coin rolls. One man in Florida found a nearly identical 1987 P quarter tucked inside a dusty piggy bank, a coin he had forgotten he even owned. He sold it for a jaw-dropping sum, transforming his life overnight. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because the combination of rarity and condition can command prices that most people can only dream about. The emotional pull of this coin isn't just in its value. It's the thrill of discovery, the joy of uncovering a secret that has been hiding in plain sight. Every scratch, every mark, every doubled line tells a story of a coin that defied expectations. Collectors describe the moment they realize they hold such a treasure as electric, a heartbeat, a rush, a sudden realization that history is in their hands. You might be wondering how to identify this coin for yourself. It isn't about just seeing a 1987 P on the quarter. Look closely at George Washington's face, especially around the date and the lettering Liberty. Under magnification, the double die will show a slight shadow effect, almost like a ghost of the letters dancing beside the originals. Another common mistake people make is assuming that a worn coin can't be valuable, but even circulated coins can reach astonishing values if the doubling is clear enough. And never forget, grading matters. Coins authenticated by reputable grading services carry far more weight in the collector market. Many collectors overlook the fact that these coins are rare not because of age, but because of the anomaly. Millions of 1987 P quarters were minted, but only a tiny fraction carry this double die feature. That's why this coin can reach up to $1.2 million. It's a combination of scarcity, condition, and the drama of discovery. Imagine the thrill of holding one in your hand, knowing it could be worth more than a house, a car, or a lifetime of savings. The emotional power of this coin goes beyond numbers. It's about moments frozen in time, a tangible piece of history that carries with it the excitement of a hidden story finally being told. When Harold saw the bid skyrocket at auction, he admitted to feeling both disbelief and awe. This wasn't just money. It was the fulfillment of a dream he didn't even know he had. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, a story that inspired collectors nationwide to look more closely at the coins they had long ignored. But here's the kicker. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now. That small, seemingly ordinary coin in your jar, your wallet, or your loose change tray could carry the same subtle, double-die anomaly that turns ordinary into extraordinary. Imagine the moment of realization, the thrill of uncovering a secret worth over $1 million. The story of the 1987 Washington quarter dollar isn't just about money. It's about hope, discovery, and the unexpected magic hiding in plain sight. Collectors now know to search diligently, to inspect carefully, to never overlook a coin simply because it looks familiar. The 1987 Washington quarter dollar reminds us that fortune often hides in the smallest places, waiting for the right eyes to find it. Every coin carries a story, but only a few carry the power to transform a life. This coin is one of them. Remember, when looking for this coin, pay attention to the doubling on the date and the word liberty. Check for any unusual shadows on Washington's face and consider the coin's condition. Authentication from a trusted grading service is crucial. A single glance under magnification could reveal a feature worth up to $1 million. Imagine holding something in your hand that could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with a 1966 Washington quarter, no mint mark. What seems like an ordinary coin hiding in your pocket could be a treasure beyond imagination. And the story of how one of these coins went from common change to $1 million miracle will leave you speechless. It all started in a quiet little town, in a dusty attic that hadn't been opened in decades. One man was going through old boxes of coins left by his grandfather. Most were ordinary, worn quarters, but one coin caught his eye. There was something different, something almost imperceptible, but a tiny irregularity hinted that this coin was not like the others. Little did he know, he was about to hold a coin that would shock the entire collector community. Collectors are obsessed with minting mistakes, and this 1966 quarter carries one of the rarest features in U.S. coin history. You see, during that year, the U.S. Mint faced a production anomaly. Coins were struck in such a way that some were missing their mint mark entirely. A detail so small, so subtle, that most people never notice it. But for collectors, this tiny detail is everything. It's the difference between a coin worth mere dollars and one that can fetch over $1 million at auction. When news of this coin reached professional coin dealers, jaws dropped. Some had been searching for decades, scouring piles of quarters in hopes of stumbling upon this elusive variety. And then, out of nowhere, one ordinary man had it in his hand. Imagine the disbelief. One moment, it's pocket change. The next, it's $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The man took the coin to a professional grading service, and as the experts examined it under magnification, the truth emerged. The coin had been struck at a moment when the mint had temporarily failed to imprint the D or S mint mark, a fluke so rare that experts believe only a handful exist in perfect condition. This is why it's one of the most sought-after quarters in American numismatic history. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and auctions are breaking records. One particular 1966 no mint mark quarter sold for a staggering $1.3 million, leaving even veteran collectors speechless. That's right, a single coin that once might have been spent on a cup of coffee now held the power to redefine a man's financial future. And the beauty of this coin is in the details. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to spot it, but you must know what to look for. First, the coin will show no mint mark beneath Washington's bust, no small letter indicating Denver or San Francisco. It's a subtle absence, easy to miss if you're not looking closely. Second, check the condition. The better preserved the coin, the higher its potential value. Minor scratches or wear drastically reduce the impact, but even a circulated example can be worth tens of thousands to collectors who know what to look for. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but most people never check their coins closely enough to notice the difference. Imagine reaching into your drawer, your old coin jar, and realizing that one quarter among hundreds could be a life-changing treasure. That's exactly what happened to a small number of Americans who stumbled upon these quarters completely by accident. The allure isn't just the money. There's something almost magical about holding history in your hand. You're not just holding a coin. You're holding a story, a piece of American minting history that was almost lost forever. Every line of detail, every slight irregularity, is a whisper from the past telling you that fortunes can hide in the most ordinary places. Some collectors have spent years chasing this coin, traveling across the country to coin shops, attending auctions, and even networking with insiders. And yet, despite all the effort, there are still coins hidden in circulation, waiting for the right eye to spot them. That means you could be holding one without even knowing it. But there's one more detail most people overlook. The edge of the 1966 no-mint mark quarter can sometimes reveal tiny hints of its origin, subtle differences in ridges and weight compared to standard issues. Experts say these minute differences can distinguish a coin that could be worth $1 million from one that's just another quarter. Pay close attention, because one overlooked detail can make all the difference. Imagine the thrill, the disbelief, the rush of holding a coin worth $1 million that you almost spent on parking. One careful look under magnification, a professional grading, and suddenly your life could change forever. That's the power of the 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter. It's not just a coin. It's a doorway to possibility, a hidden miracle waiting in plain sight. Start by sorting through quarters from 1966. Look closely at the area beneath Washington's bust. Check for absence of a mint mark. Examine the edges, the weight, the wear. Even if it's circulated, this coin is a potential gem. Take your time. Handle it carefully. A single glance could reveal what generations of collectors have been hunting for decades. The thrill of discovery, the chance to hold history in your hands, and the possibility that something you overlook every day could be worth over $1 million. It's the ultimate treasure hiding in plain sight. This exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and if you recognize it, it could be your gateway to $1 million miracle. Don't overlook the ordinary. Sometimes, the most extraordinary fortunes are hiding where you least expect them. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a coin you think is just ordinary change, only to discover it could be worth over $1 million. That's exactly what happened with one 1990 D Washington quarter dollar, and the story behind it reads like a Hollywood thriller for coin collectors. This isn't just a coin. It's a miracle hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its true value. Most people passed this coin off without a second glance. They saw the familiar Washington head, the D mint mark at the bottom, and thought, just another quarter. But collectors who know the secret understand that this coin has a hidden story that could transform a life. One small minting anomaly, overlooked for decades, is the reason dealers are scrambling and auction houses are setting record prices. It all started in a small minting error at the Denver Mint. During production, a tiny misalignment caused an unusual doubling of the date and the mint mark, a subtle but crucial detail that the average person would never notice. Collectors who spotted this instantly knew they were holding a coin unlike any other. But how did it survive all these years without being recognized? One man discovered it entirely by accident. He was sorting through pocket change after a long day at work, tossing coins into a jar like most of us do. That's when his eye caught the faint doubling near the D mint mark. His heart raced. He pulled out a magnifying glass, and what he saw stunned him. This tiny, forgotten quarter could now fetch over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That he took the coin to a local dealer, expecting perhaps a few $100s, maybe $1,000 at best. The dealer's eyes widened as soon as he saw it. "Where did you find this?" he asked, almost in disbelief. Word spread fast. Within days, collectors from across the country were calling, sending offers, even flying in to examine it themselves. This one little coin, sitting in a jar of loose change, had become a life-changing treasure. The story of the 1990 D Washington quarter is filled with these almost unbelievable moments. Some coins ended up in estate sales, some were tucked away in boxes of old coins forgotten for decades, and some were sitting unnoticed in coin rolls at local banks. Every time one surfaced, it made headlines because of its shocking rarity and the subtle flaw that makes it priceless. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, knowing it could bring them millions at auction. Here's why this coin commands such value. The Denver Mint mark is normally crisp and clear, but in these rare examples, the doubling of the D is faint yet undeniable. The digits in the date can show a shadow effect, and the spacing is slightly off. It's almost invisible to the untrained eye, which is why so many have been overlooked. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it entirely. Collectors have shared stories of sleepless nights, obsessively checking coin rolls, hoping to spot that same elusive doubling. Some traveled thousands of miles after hearing rumors that a local bank had a shipment of quarters with the same error. There's almost a mystical element to it, the feeling that the coin chooses its finder rather than the other way around. But not every 1990 D quarter is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. The key is knowing exactly what to look for. Look closely at the D mint mark, especially the curve at the bottom and the serifs of the letters. Check the date for a faint doubling that's uneven but still visible under magnification. Hold it under strong light and tilt it slightly to catch the subtle shadows. Compare it to known examples of the error. And remember, even experts can sometimes miss it without careful examination. This coin has not only broken records, it has rewritten the way collectors approach Washington quarters. Auction houses now categorize these 1990 D errors in their rare coin catalogs as must-see, potentially million-dollar coins. One auction even sold a similar coin for over $1 million, shocking the entire numismatic community and leaving collectors scrambling to check their own jars and rolls. The thrill isn't just in the potential wealth, it's in the story. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. A coin that was nearly discarded has now become one of the most sought-after collectibles of the last 30 years. And every discovery reinforces the same lesson. Treasure can be hiding anywhere, even in the smallest, most ordinary place. Just when you think you understand why this coin is special, another layer of its history unfolds. Some coins show variations that increase their rarity tenfold. Others survived unlikely journeys, from being dropped on busy streets to being tucked in drawers, unnoticed for decades. The odds of finding one are slim, but the reward is staggering. Now, imagine holding one in your hand. The excitement, the knowledge that this unassuming piece of metal could represent a life-changing fortune. That's the emotional power behind the 1990 D Washington quarter. You don't just see a coin. You see possibility, history, and wealth all wrapped into one small circle. Here's what to do if you think you might have one. Don't rush to sell it without expert verification. Get it graded by a reputable company. Document the mint mark and date carefully, and never rely solely on visual inspection. Even seasoned collectors use magnification and proper lighting to confirm authenticity. And once verified, understand that this coin is one of the few in the world with the potential to command over $1 million. Remember, the next great discovery could be waiting in your own home. That jar of old coins on your shelf, your grandfather's collection, or even your daily pocket change could hold the next $1 million miracle. The story of the 1990 D Washington quarter is proof that treasures don't always come with a map. They sometimes come disguised as ordinary coins, waiting for the right person to recognize their true worth. Collectors are still finding these coins today, and every discovery fuels the legend. Dealers remain vigilant, auctions are buzzing, and the market is hot. And the most incredible part? You don't have to travel to find one. It could be right under your nose, in a place you've been overlooking for years. Pay close attention to the D mint mark, examine the date for subtle doubling, and treat every 1990 D quarter as a potential treasure. The opportunity is real, the rewards are staggering, and the story is still unfolding. This coin has already created million-dollar moments, and it can do the same again. This exact 1990 D Washington quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One small discovery could change everything. Are you ready to see if fortune has been waiting for you all along? Today, collectors are paying up to $1 million for it. Imagine, a quarter no bigger than your thumb, yet its story could turn ordinary pocket change into a fortune. It sounds unbelievable, but for one man, this coin transformed his life overnight. It all starts back in 1998 at the Philadelphia Mint. The Washington quarters were rolling off the presses by the millions, destined to pass from hand to hand unnoticed. But among those millions, a small batch carried a hidden imperfection, a minting quirk so rare that decades later, it would shock the entire coin-collecting world. Most people tossed their change without a second glance. Few had any idea a potential million-dollar treasure was slipping through their fingers. Collectors discovered this anomaly because of a subtle shift in the coin's design. A tiny doubling on the date and the word liberty created a variation that went completely unnoticed at first. Dealers who recognized it were stunned. The minute you see it, your heart races. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it every single day. Point one story stands out. A retired schoolteacher was sorting coins from a long-forgotten jar. He barely glanced at the quarters, tossing them onto a table. But one coin caught the light differently. He didn't know it at the time, but this was a 1998 P quarter with that rare doubling, the kind of coin that turns ordinary collectors into millionaires. He sold it at auction, and the hammer fell at over $1 million. Just one coin, and his life changed forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News outlets picked up the story. Collectors everywhere started scouring their coin jars, drawers, and even couch cushions. The demand exploded overnight. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, offering prices most people wouldn't dream of. And yet, most of these quarters are still hiding in plain sight, right in people's homes. The beauty of this coin lies in its subtlety. It doesn't scream rare at first glance. The doubling is slight, almost invisible if you're not looking for it. It hides in the letters, on the rim, in the numbers. That's why millions have been missed. One tiny detail can make the difference between a worthless coin and a life-changing treasure. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you. Imagine holding it in your hand. Feel the weight, the history. A coin minted in Philadelphia over 25 years ago that journeyed through countless pockets, registers, and wallets, finally landing in the hands of someone who recognizes its value. Collectors were shocked when they realized how few of these existed. A coin that could have been lost forever, now commanding attention and staggering prices. The story doesn't end there. Some collectors have tracked the movement of these coins across auctions and private sales. Patterns emerge. Coins sold for hundreds of thousands, then a few for over $1 million. Every auction seems to increase the excitement, feeding a frenzy among coin enthusiasts who know a life-changing discovery is still out there. And it's not just the financial value. Owning a coin like this is owning a piece of history. You hold a minting error that survived decades unnoticed, a whisper from the past that now roars with attention. The thrill of spotting one in your change is unmatched. It's a story of luck, timing, and sharp eyes. How do you even identify this coin? First, look at the date, 1998, and the P mint mark for Philadelphia. Next, examine the letters in Liberty. The doubling is subtle but unmistakable if you know where to look. Check the rim for uneven lines, slight doubling along the edge, and pay attention to the spacing in the numbers. This is not a coin for casual inspection. Magnification helps. And beware of counterfeits or polished coins. The genuine articles have a natural, untouched luster. You don't need to be a professional collector to find one. Many have been found in jars of forgotten change, tucked away in drawers, or even stuck behind couch cushions. That exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting to reveal its $1 million potential. And every collector who's held one will tell you the same thing. The moment you spot the doubling, your breath catches. Your hands shake. You realize this small, unassuming quarter could be the key to a life-changing discovery. Dealers are paying top dollar, auction houses are scrambling, and yet, there are still coins out there, waiting for the right eyes. What happened next was almost cinematic. Auctions that once seemed routine became headline news. Collectors who once ignored pocket change became hunters, scouring every coin in existence. Stories of surprise discoveries flooded forums and social media. The excitement was palpable, and it all traces back to this tiny 1998 P quarter, carrying a secret that the world had almost forgotten. Look for the subtle doubling, the P mint mark, and examine the date and lettering closely. A loupe or magnifying glass is essential. And never assume that a coin is worthless just because it looks ordinary. The rarest treasures often hide in the most ordinary places. This coin proves that fortune favors the vigilant. The retired schoolteacher who found his $1 million coin could have tossed it aside without a thought. Others will still find theirs in drawers, jars, or even rolled quarters at the bank. Every moment you wait, there's a chance someone else finds what could have been yours. Collectors continue to share their finds, and dealers are eager for more. The 1998 P. Washington quarter is more than a coin. It's a legend, a reminder that the extraordinary can hide in plain sight. Millions have passed it by, and yet, it remains one of the most sought-after coins of the modern era. But collectors are now discovering that a single 1989 D. Washington quarter dollar can be worth up to $1 million. One ordinary day, one man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle. And the most shocking part? Most people will never see it. Even if it's sitting right under their nose. It all started with the minting errors no one wanted to talk about. In 1989, the Denver Mint struck millions of quarters, standard issue, ordinary circulation coins, or so everyone thought. But among the endless waves of metal, a few coins were quietly transformed by a rare die clash and a subtle doubling on the obverse. These weren't obvious mistakes. They were hidden, almost invisible to the untrained eye. The very tiny irregularities made the coin almost invisible to collectors scanning their change, until someone noticed. Collectors were shocked when the first discovery hit the auction block. What looked like a common quarter sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then it escalated. Dealers started scrutinizing rolls of 1989 D quarters like never before. One auction alone pulled in nearly $1 million for a single, perfect specimen. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired schoolteacher, cleaning out his old desk drawers, stumbled upon a stack of 1989 D quarters. One caught his eye. It had a faint, almost ghostly doubling on Washington's profile. He thought it was just wear, but when he had it appraised, the appraiser froze. This tiny coin, something he'd barely noticed, could be worth $1 million. The sheer randomness of the find sent ripples through the collector community. One man's trash had become another man's treasure, and the hunt was on for more. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1989 D. Washington quarter isn't about scratches or discoloration. It's about die errors, subtle doubling on the date and mint mark, a tiny misalignment that can be seen only at the right angle under magnification. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any coin with these exact characteristics. Even a faint mark can skyrocket the coin's value into the hundreds of thousands, and in perfect condition, well over $1 million. But you have to be careful. Many people mistake ordinary wear for the rare doubling. Look too quickly, and it will slip past your eyes. One dealer recalled holding a coin in his hand, convinced it was the sought-after rarity, only to discover later it was a common quarter with a scratch. The difference between nothing and $1 million is in the details, tiny lines along the date, the spacing of the D mint mark, a slight doubling on Washington's profile that turns the coin from ordinary to legendary. And then there's the story of the coin that disappeared. One of the finest specimens vanished from a private collection for years. Rumors swirled. Was it stolen or just hidden? When it resurfaced, it shattered records at auction. The price? Well over $1 million. Collectors were stunned, dealers were scrambling, and the mystery only made people hunt harder. The coin had become more than currency. It was a legend, a treasure, a symbol of the unimaginable fortune hidden in everyday life. Every few weeks, a new story surfaces. Someone finds a 1989 D. Washington quarter in a forgotten jar, a coffee can, a purse. And every time, the excitement is the same. The look of disbelief when the coin is graded, the disbelief when the value is revealed. One man even found a roll of these quarters in a laundromat vending machine. The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. His ordinary change could be worth more than most people make in a lifetime. First, check the mint mark. The Denver D is crucial. Next, look at the date. Subtle doubling here is key. Examine Washington's profile closely. Light may reveal faint extra lines on the hair or cheek, imperfections that are invisible in a casual glance. Magnification is essential. Even a 10x loop can reveal the miraculous features. And remember, condition matters. A coin in perfect condition is exponentially more valuable than one that's worn. But even knowing what to look for doesn't guarantee discovery. Many collectors have spent decades hunting these coins. Some buy rolls by the dozens, hoping luck will favor them. Others meticulously inspect every quarter from circulation. The thrill is as much in the hunt as the potential reward. The adrenaline of spotting a faint line or a slight doubling can make your heart race like no other experience. And the stories don't stop. Families have passed these coins down for generations, not realizing their worth until a curious grandchild spotted something unusual. Dealers have bought collections sight unseen, hoping that one hidden 1989 D will make them a fortune. Each coin carries a tale, a suspense, a heartbeat of the million-dollar dream. Patience and vigilance are everything. Keep an eye on your pocket change. Check every jar. Inspect every roll. It may take years, but one day, the right coin will reveal itself. And when it does, it can change your life in a way you never imagined. One man's pocket change has already done that. Imagine holding it in your hand. The weight of history, the thrill of rarity, the pulse of potential million-dollar wealth. That faint doubling, that tiny misalignment, is the difference between ordinary life and extraordinary fortune. And it's out there, waiting, possibly in your drawer, your wallet, or a jar you haven't checked in years. This exact 1989 D Washington quarter could be hiding in plain sight. Look closely, examine every detail, and never underestimate the power of one small coin. Because right now, somewhere in the United States, one ordinary quarter is quietly waiting to become a million-dollar miracle. It was a 2021 P-Mint quarter, and it sold for nearly $1 million. And the crazy part? Nobody saw it coming. People spent it at gas stations, dropped it in car consoles, tapped it onto countertops without a second thought. But a tiny, almost invisible flaw, a flaw created in complete silence inside the Philadelphia Mint, turned a simple 25-cent coin into the kind of treasure that makes collectors tremble. And tonight, you're about to discover the same secret. The story begins with a batch of 2021 quarters struck during one of the most chaotic production periods in modern mint history. Machines were pushed to their limits. Mint workers raced against deadlines. And somewhere in that rush, something happened, a mistake, a slip, a misalignment so rare that even veteran graders couldn't believe it when the first example surfaced. But before anyone could blink, rumors spread across the coin world. Collectors whispered about a coin with a distorted strike, a shadow-like doubling, a razor-sharp clash mark, something nobody could fully explain. They said the coin looked wrong, but in the most beautiful and valuable way imaginable. And then the moment that changed everything. A private auction, a late-night bidding war, a 2021 P quarter crossing the block and blowing past every prediction. $100, 000, $300, 000, $600, 000. And finally, a jaw-dropping figure that stunned the entire room. Over $1.5 million. Dealers froze. Collectors were paralyzed. One man literally sat back in his chair and whispered. But the mystery wasn't finished, because the buyer never revealed the exact variety he paid that price for. Not the full photos, not the diagnostics, not the official notes. He kept everything locked away, because he believed there were more out there. And he didn't want anyone finding them before he did. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A second rumored discovery surfaced that a teenage collector in Ohio claimed his coin had the same strange distortions near the date, the same ghost-like doubling near the mint mark, the same razor-thin cracks spidering along the rim. Dealers rushed to verify it. Phones lit up. Everybody wanted a piece of the story. But then, another twist. The coin vanished, taken off the market, no public sale, no explanation. And to this day, nobody knows who owns it. That's why so many collectors are searching desperately for these 2021 P quarters. Because unlike the legendary coins of the past, this one is new, recent, still circulating, still turning up in pocket change and Coinstar trays and dusty jars in the back of kitchen drawers. Some of these flawed strikes are so subtle that even experienced collectors overlook them on the first pass. During a small regional coin show in Florida, a dealer spotted what he thought was a damaged coin in a customer's pile of junk silver. He almost pushed it aside. But something he couldn't explain, made him take a second look at a faint doubling on Washington's profile, that a tiny crack arching behind the ponytail, that a strange indentation hidden beneath the word liberty. He paused. He tilted the coin under the light. His stomach dropped. He knew what he was holding. That coin didn't sell publicly, but insiders claim it was bought privately for close to $1 million. and now collectors everywhere are racing to find the next one. But what makes this coin worth up to $1.60 million? The answer lies in the mistake itself. A striking anomaly, so rare it borders on miraculous. Some call it a phantom double strike. Others say it's a misaligned die. A few believe it was a short-lived experimental die setup that was corrected within minutes. Whatever it is, the error is dramatic enough to create shock value, but subtle enough that only a careful eye will catch it. And this is where things get exciting, because the next one, the one that could change your life, might be sitting in a cup holder, a glove compartment, or the bottom of your old change jar, and you'd never know it unless you looked closely. Collectors describe 3 signs that matter more than anything else. Miss just one of them, and the coin becomes a normal quarter worth 25 cents. But find all 3, and you may be holding something worth over $1 million. Even veteran graders say the diagnostics feel like discovering a ghost in the metal. But what makes this coin truly unforgettable isn't the rarity, it's the emotion behind every discovery story. People who thought their luck had run out. People who felt they'd never get a shot at $1 million coin. People who searched for years without finding anything special. Then, suddenly, one moment changes everything. Like the man who found his in a tip jar at work. He picked up a handful of change without thinking, felt one coin stick strangely to his fingertip, turned it over, and nearly dropped it when he saw the distorted date and doubled mint mark. That handful of change became a $1 million miracle. Stories like that are why collectors are obsessed with this coin, why dealers are paying ridiculous premiums, why treasure hunters are scouring every roll, every bag, every old forgotten container of change they can get their hands on. Because this coin isn't just rare, it's modern, it's alive, it's still out there. And now, it's your turn to know what to look for. Start with the mint mark. On the 2021 P, the doubling effect, if your coin has it, will look like a faint shadow drifting behind the P. Soft, almost smoky. Tilt the coin slowly. If the doubling is real, it won't disappear. Next, examine Washington's eye and profile. Some examples show a slight double line around the nose, lips, or chin, like a ghost outline hovering just a fraction away from the real one. Then check the rim. Hairline cracks or tiny raised metal ridges often appear above the word Liberty or near the date. They're subtle, but they're the clues that make this coin what it is. And finally, check for a strange, almost unnatural distortion in the field, as if the metal shifted for a split second during striking. If your 2021 P quarter has these signs, you're not holding pocket change, you're holding a life-changing discovery. Instead, it's sold for a life-changing fortune. A coin minted in 1979, the Denver mint mark faintly pressed into the metal, a quarter that stunned collectors when it crossed the auction block for nearly $1.8 million. And the most shocking part is this: it looked almost ordinary. For years, people tossed these coins into jars, glove compartments, and grocery store trays without a second thought. No one imagined that one of the most valuable Washington quarters of the late 20th century was hiding in plain sight. But the mystery behind the 1979 D quarter isn't just rare. It's unpredictable, unexplained, and still debated among experts today. The legend starts with a single collector from Colorado, a quiet guy who searched coins as a hobby, nothing more. He picked through change during lunch breaks, long before anyone knew what was coming. One winter afternoon, he found a 1979 D quarter that just felt different, sharper, brighter. He didn't know it then, but he was holding a minting anomaly that would turn the coin world upside down. When the coin was examined under magnification, graders instantly froze. Every line on Washington's portrait was razor-sharp. Every feather on the eagle's wings looked sculpted by hand. The strike was so crisp that some believed it could only have come from a test die, a die never meant to strike circulating coins. The man had unknowingly found a coin that wasn't supposed to exist. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this mysterious coin before the story even went public. And when the auction finally opened, the room fell silent. No one predicted what happened in those few minutes. Bidders battled until the price blasted past $1 million, then kept climbing. By the time the dust settled, this modest-looking 1979 D quarter had crossed into the world record books at a staggering $1.8 million. Another collector came forward claiming he had seen one just like it decades earlier. A quarter with the same impossible details, the same mirror-like fields, the same eerie precision. It hinted at a secret batch of test strikes that may have accidentally entered circulation. A small handful, or maybe just one. A coin born from an accidental moment inside the Denver Mint that no one could ever fully explain. The Denver Mint in 1979 was pushing full speed to keep up with demand. Tens of millions of quarters rolled off the machines. But when dies wore out or experimental finishes were tested, mint workers sometimes struck a few coins as samples. These sample strikes were supposed to be destroyed. Yet every once in a while, one escapes. And when it does, it becomes the stuff of legend. Months after the record-breaking sale, a retired Mint employee hinted that during the late 70s there were indeed experimental press runs to test pressure and die alignment. He said a few coins struck with exceptional sharpness may have slipped into normal coin bags by accident. He didn't confirm it outright, but he didn't deny it either. That single comment sent collectors into a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone wanted to search their 1979 quarters again. One man's pocket change had become a million-dollar miracle, and thousands of people across the country began hunting for that needle in the haystack. Coin shows buzzed with whispers. Dealers inspected trays with trembling hands. The mystery only grew deeper that a second example appeared, or at least, that's what the owner claimed. The coin surfaced at a small estate sale in Texas. The seller didn't realize its significance, but a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual. The coin had that same burst of clarity, the same extraordinary strike that defied logic. Word spread instantly, and then the coin vanished from public sight. Rumors swirl that the owner is waiting for the right moment to reveal it. If that coin is real, it could easily cross the million-dollar mark all over again. Most people never look closely at their change. They see a quarter and move on. But this specific coin teaches a powerful truth. Life-changing treasures often hide in the most ordinary places. And the 1979 D quarter with the ultra-sharp strike is the perfect example of that. This tiny detail is what sets the million-dollar version apart. Look at Washington's hair. On regular 1979 D quarters, the lines are shallow, soft, and slightly blurred. But on the ultra-rare million-dollar example, the hair strands look engraved, deep, and sculpted. You can see light reflect off each curl, then move to the eagle on the reverse. The feathers on the wings should look almost 3D, as if carved. On a normal coin, these feathers blend together. On the rare one, they look alive. Even the lettering pops with unusual clarity, as if the coin was frozen in time. That a grading expert once said that the rare strike on this coin was so perfect, it almost resembled a proof, but it wasn't. It was a circulation coin with proof-like qualities. That combination is nearly impossible. And that impossibility is why collectors are willing to pay more than $1 million today for the chance to own one. But don't think every shiny coin is the jackpot. Many 1979 D quarters look sharp, but they're not the one you're after. Some beginners confuse polished coins or damaged coins for rare strikes. That's a heartbreaking mistake. Polishing leaves swirl marks. Harsh cleaning creates scratches. The true million-dollar version has none of that. It has natural brilliance, untouched and flawless. You need to check the mint mark first. It must be a clear, well-defined D. Then study the strike. The coin must look like it was made with brand new dies. Every detail must be crisp and full. No weak spots, no flat areas, no blurry lettering. If your coin looks average, it's not the one. If it looks slightly better than normal, it still isn't the one. This rare coin doesn't just look good, it looks impossible. And never forget this final truth. Legendary coins don't always scream for attention. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they hide in your change, waiting for the one person who takes an extra second to look. It was a 1990p Washington quarter that looked completely ordinary to everyone except the one person who bothered to take a closer look. People think coins from the 90s can't possibly be worth life-changing money. But this one shattered that belief. It shook collectors. It stunned dealers. It made everyone question how many other hidden treasures slipped through their hands without ever being recognized. The story begins with a man who was cleaning out the center console of his truck. Just another day. Just another handful of forgotten pocket change. But tucked between dusty receipts and 2 old nickels was a quarter that felt just slightly off. Something about the shine. Something about the texture. Something about the way the light hit the edge. He almost ignored it. Almost. 1990. The mint mark P. Nothing special at first glance. But then he noticed a tiny imperfection near the rim, something that looked like it could be an early dye issue. A flaw so faint, most people would never see it. Yet this one flaw hinted at a story buried deep in the Philadelphia Mint's production floor that year. Collectors still whisper about it. Because 1990 was a year when several experimental dyes and improperly prepared planchets escaped into circulation. Nobody knows exactly how many. Some say only a handful. Others claim dozens. But nearly everyone agrees. The rarest ones are still out there, hiding in the most ordinary places that the experts were visibly shaken. The luster was unusual. The strike was sharper than expected. And the minting anomaly on the rim turned out to be the result of a dye that had been pulled early from production, but somehow kept running long enough to create a tiny batch of nearly flawless errors. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a ghost of the minting process, a coin born in the split second between perfection and disaster. The number was so high, collectors worldwide gasped. That single label transformed what was once a pocket quarter into a treasure worth more than anyone could have imagined. And when it finally reached auction, the atmosphere felt electric. Even seasoned dealers whispered to each other like they were witnessing a myth come to life. This wasn't just a rare 1990p quarter. This was one of the finest known examples of a nearly impossible error. The bids climbed and climbed, each one higher than the last, until the final hammer came down on a number that sounded unreal for a coin most people would walk right past. Some said it was crazy. Others called it history. But everyone agreed. A quarter approaching $1 million is something you never forget. More collectors started digging. More rolls were opened. More people began looking at 1990 quarters with a kind of hungry obsession. And slowly, quietly, whispers began spreading that a few more of these error strikes had surfaced. Not many, but enough to make collectors everywhere reach into their pockets with trembling hands. Most 1990p quarters look boring and average. But it's the tiniest details that separate a regular quarter from a fortune. And the details are so easy to miss that even experienced collectors have thrown these coins back into circulation without realizing what they held. The rarest versions have a razor-sharp strike on Washington's portrait, unusually deep texture in his hair, and a rim that shows faint signs of dye deterioration or misalignment. Sometimes it's a doubled letter. Sometimes it's an abnormally strong luster. Sometimes it's an ultra-rare off-center strike, so slight you'd never notice unless you tilted the coin under bright light. There's a collector in Ohio who spent years searching for one. He told his family he just wanted one miracle coin. People teased him. Dealers brushed him off. But he kept searching through pocket change, yard sale jars, and old coin rolls until one winter night. He found a quarter that looked different. A 1990p, sharp, clean, perfectly preserved. And when he held it up to the light, he said he felt something he hadn't felt since childhood. That spark of discovery. That moment when everything around you goes silent, that he sent it in. And the day he opened the grading results, he cried. Not because it was valuable, but because after 20 years of collecting, he had found the one coin nobody believed he would ever find. And yes, it was worth hundreds of thousands. Some say nearly $1 million in pristine condition. Collectors began flooding online forums asking one urgent question: how do I know if mine is the valuable one? Because the truth is, these coins don't announce themselves. They hide under layers of normalcy. They blend in. And only the most observant eyes catch them. If you're holding a 1990p quarter, the first thing you check is the strike. Look for unusually crisp details in Washington's hair. Look for clean, sharp letters in Liberty and I in God We Trust with no signs of flattening. Look at the rim for slight doubling, minor off-center alignment, or evidence of a late-stage dye error. Then flip it over and check the eagle's feathers. Deep, bold lines can be a major clue. The second thing to check is luster. Some of the rarest examples shine differently, almost as if the metal cooled in a way that preserved microscopic texture. Third, check for weight variations, dye cracks, or unusual imperfections that line up with known early 1990 minting issues. Finally, preserve it immediately. Don't clean it. Don't handle it by the surface. Keep it safe and consider grading if it looks even slightly unusual. Every time someone finds one of these coins, it proves that treasures don't live in museums. They hide in plain sight. They pass through our hands every day. They sit in our cars, our drawers, our pockets, waiting for the one person who notices something the rest of the world overlooked. Because right now, you might be holding a coin that could change your future. Right now, a simple 1990p Washington quarter in your home could be worth more than $1 million. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is whether you take a closer look. But instead, it became one of the most unbelievable million-dollar discoveries in modern coin history. And the shocking part is that it was a simple 1995 D Washington quarter, the kind you've seen 1,000 times, the kind that most people spin without a second thought. But this one changed everything. For years, collectors whispered about a strange Denver minted quarter that seemed to defy every rule. It wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't supposed to survive. And yet, it surfaced in the most ordinary place, a man's pocket after buying a cup of coffee. What he thought was pocket change would eventually stun the entire coin world and ignite a frenzy that's still burning today. The story begins with a minting mistake so subtle that even seasoned dealers walked right past it. A tiny imperfection created during the minting process, almost invisible to the untrained eye, gave this coin its power. And that imperfection, that microscopic flaw, is exactly why certain 1995 D quarters are now selling for life-changing amounts. In the right grade, with the right error, collectors are paying up to $1.1 million. Yes, $1 million for a 25-cent coin that most people have sitting in an old jar or glove compartment. But what happened next stunned collectors everywhere. When the first rare 1995 D quarter hit the auction block, the room fell silent. Experts leaned forward. Dealers whispered. And as the bidding climbed past every expectation, people realized they were witnessing history. No one believed a modern quarter could do this. Not one person imagined it would spark a nationwide hunt, sending collectors digging through their change with shaking hands, hoping lightning would strike twice. But here's the part almost nobody knows. The origin of this incredible variety goes back to a chaotic moment at the Denver Mint. A single damaged die, used longer than it should have been, created a handful of quarters with an unmistakable, dramatic tell. For years, these coins went unnoticed, passed from hand to hand, hiding in pockets, vending machines, soda machines, lunch counters, drifting through America like invisible treasure. And then, one ordinary man noticed something strange, a warped, slightly doubled detail on the obverse. At first, he thought it was just worn out, but something told him to take a closer look. That decision changed his life forever, but the story doesn't end there. Because once the first discovery was confirmed, collectors realized something terrifying. There might be more. Maybe a small handful. Maybe a dozen. Maybe one is sitting in someone's junk drawer right now, waiting to shock the world again. The coin community exploded. Forums lit up. Dealers rushed to buy bags of unsearched quarters. Even people who never cared about collecting jumped into the frenzy, desperate to find the next million-dollar quarter. People were turning their houses upside down, checking every old coin they'd ever saved. Some found nothing. Others found something, but not quite the one. And yet, they kept searching, fueled by the dream that maybe, just maybe, they could be next. But here's where the drama deepens. That tiny minting issue isn't easy to spot. You can have the coin in your hand and never realize what you're holding. It hides in plain sight. It refuses to reveal itself unless you know exactly what to look for. And that's why most people ignore it. That's why millions of 1995 D quarters have been spent, dropped, scraped, and lost, while only a rare few survive in pristine, untouched condition. Collectors were shocked to learn that the key identifying feature sits right on Washington's profile. A die deterioration doubling effect, mixed with a crisp Denver Mint mark, creates an eerie, ghost-like doubling across the cheek, jawline, and sometimes the date. It doesn't look like normal wear. It doesn't look like damage. It looks like a shadow frozen in metal. A mistake locked in time. But what came next electrified the entire coin world. A second coin surfaced, then a third, and each one pushed the prices higher, each sale adding more fuel to a fire that refused to die down. These weren't ordinary coins. These were survivors from a tiny batch created by a die on the brink of failure. And because most of those coins were thrown into circulation immediately, their chances of remaining in high grade were almost zero. That scarcity is exactly why collectors are calling this one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. And just when everyone thought the madness had peaked, another twist dropped. A well-known collector revealed he had unknowingly held one of these quarters for more than 15 years. It had been sitting in a plastic jar in his basement. He had no idea, no clue. The moment he had it authenticated, experts were stunned. The coin was nearly flawless. A miracle survivor. And just like that, another piece of the million-dollar puzzle fell into place. But the mystery grew deeper. How many of these coins were created before the damaged die was replaced? The truth is, nobody knows. Could there be only a handful? Could more be hidden in circulation right now? Some believe fewer than 10 high-grade examples exist. Others think even that number is too generous. And that uncertainty is exactly why collectors can't stop searching. But let me take you back to something important, something most people overlook. The Denver Mint in the mid-1990s was producing millions of coins a day. A single faulty die slipping into production could create rare treasures without anyone realizing it. And that's what makes the 1995 D quarter so thrilling. It's a modern coin with an old-school mystery. A hidden error with the power to change someone's life in an instant. The smallest detail on this coin could be worth more than your car, maybe more than your house. And most people walk right past it. Collectors say the first thing you should check is Washington's cheek. That's where the doubling hides, creeping like a strange shadow. Look also at the date. A slight split on the numbers can signal something extraordinary. And finally, examine the mint mark. A clear, crisp D is a must, because without it, you don't have the coin that started this entire frenzy. But here's the part that gives people goosebumps. Even if you have a doubled obverse, even if the die deterioration is there, condition is everything. The highest value examples are the ones that escaped circulation almost immediately. Bright, sharp, clean. And that is why only a tiny number have ever reached the type of grade that launches them into the million-dollar category. Imagine this for a moment. You're flipping through your old change. Nothing unusual. Then suddenly you stop. Something looks off. Your heart starts pounding. You tilt the coin toward the light, and there it is. That eerie doubling only a few people on Earth will ever see. That is the moment collectors dream of. That is the moment when a simple quarter becomes fate. And this is where inspiration becomes reality. Because every major discovery of this coin came from ordinary people doing ordinary things. A coffee purchase, a grocery store run, a handful of change given to a kid. Everyday moments that turned into million-dollar miracles. It is proof that treasure doesn't always hide underground. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket. Imagine digging through a jar of spare change, expecting nothing more than a few dimes and nickels, and suddenly holding a coin that could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1967 no mint mark Washington quarter. Most people glance at it, see a shiny quarter, and toss it back into circulation. But collectors? They see a treasure hiding in plain sight. You see, 1967 was a transitional year in U.S. coinage. The country was shifting, minting practices were changing, and one tiny oversight at the Philadelphia Mint created a mistake so rare that it would stun even the most seasoned coin collectors. No mint mark. Seemingly ordinary. But it's that absence of a letter, that tiny omission, that makes this coin almost priceless. Most quarters from 1967 were intended for general circulation, but this one slipped through unnoticed, almost forgotten. Dealers have described it as the kind of coin that sits quietly in a drawer for decades, until one day someone discovers it. And suddenly, the world takes notice. Collectors were shocked when the first examples appeared at auction. A coin that had spent decades in someone's pocket change suddenly drew bids that reached hundreds of thousands, and eventually, close to $1 million. One man's simple curiosity, a casual sorting of coins, became the start of $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts began examining every 1967 quarter in circulation. Thousands of coins were inspected, dozens turned up as normal. And then, a few rare no-mint mark quarters appeared, each carrying the potential for life-changing value. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them, often paying top dollar before the coins even reached auction. The answer lies in the minting process. In 1967, Philadelphia was operating at peak capacity, producing millions of quarters. But amid the hundreds of thousands of coins, a tiny fraction were struck without the identifying P mint mark. These coins weren't intended to be different, yet this accidental oversight became their secret power. Imagine standing at a coin show, holding a handful of 1967 quarters. Most people see them as pocket change. You, however, might be holding the very coin that could change your future. It's that suspense, that uncertainty, that fuels the excitement of coin collecting. Every glance, every close inspection becomes a moment of possibility. Condition matters. A quarter that's spent decades in circulation will naturally show wear, but the rare, high-grade examples, those almost untouched by time, are the ones commanding top bids. Grading, shine, and the faintest details in the lettering and design all contribute to the staggering value. One tiny scratch can be the difference between $100 and $100,000. That the stories from auctions are almost unbelievable. A retired teacher discovered one in a jar labeled old quarters. She thought it was worthless, almost used it to buy coffee. Instead, she walked into a dealer's shop and left with an offer that would fund her retirement. Another collector found a group of no-mint mark quarters while sorting coins inherited from his grandfather. Within days, he had offers that exceeded everything he'd ever dreamed of. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of a mint mark is subtle. It doesn't jump out. You have to know exactly what to look for. A standard 1967 quarter will carry a small P if minted in Philadelphia, but these no-mint mark coins are smooth, flawless, and completely unmarked. Learning to spot them is like learning a secret language, one that only a handful of collectors understand. Dealers warn about counterfeits. Not every no-mint mark quarter is genuine. Many coins have been polished or altered to appear rare. That's why learning the subtle characteristics, the weight, the edge, the precise shape of the lettering, is critical. Even the faintest imperfection can reveal a coin's true story. The emotional impact on collectors can't be overstated. Some describe it as a mix of thrill and disbelief. You're holding something ordinary that hides extraordinary value. It's a puzzle, a secret, a treasure buried in plain sight. One wrong move, and you might overlook it. One right move, and your life could change in an instant. The number of these coins in circulation is minuscule. Estimates suggest only a handful of high-grade, no-mint mark quarters from 1967 are known to exist. Each new discovery sends ripples through the collecting community, reigniting excitement and frenzy among dealers and enthusiasts alike. That's the first clue. Compare it to a standard 1967 quarter. Look for subtle differences in the edges, the detail of Washington's profile, and the overall strike quality. Condition is critical. High-grade examples are smooth, nearly flawless, and show a brightness that's uncommon for coins over 50 years old. Consult a professional if you suspect you have a rare one. Experts can authenticate it, confirm its grade, and help you understand its true value. Every coin tells a story, but few tell a story like this one. The 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter is more than just a piece of metal. It's a key to dreams, a symbol of discovery, and a reminder that fortune often hides in plain sight. Many dismiss these coins as ordinary. Few realize they could be sitting on a fortune, waiting for the right moment to reveal their worth. Collectors everywhere are inspired by the tales of discovery, the stories of ordinary people who suddenly find themselves part of an elite circle, holding a piece of history worth a staggering sum. The adrenaline, the suspense, the thrill of spotting a rare coin among hundreds, it's addictive, and so the hunt continues. Coins like these aren't just bought and sold, they're sought after with fervor. Dealers, collectors, and enthusiasts alike scour their jars, drawers, and coin rolls, dreaming of that magical find. The 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter isn't just a collectible. It's a possibility, a once-in-a-lifetime chance, a ticket to unimaginable wealth. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that started as everyday pocket change, only to turn into a treasure that leaves seasoned collectors speechless. That's the story of the 1971 Washington quarter. Few people know its secrets, and even fewer know how to spot it. But what if I told you one of these quarters could be hiding in your own drawer right now? The story begins decades ago at the Denver Mint. It was a busy year, with thousands of quarters rolling off the presses every day. But somewhere in that massive production, A tiny error slipped through, a minting anomaly so subtle that most collectors would glance at it and walk away, never realizing the fortune it carried. This was no ordinary mistake. It was a hidden gem that only the sharpest eyes could detect, and it would take decades for the world to recognize its true value. Collectors were shocked when the first 1971 D. Washington quarter with this anomaly surfaced at auction. What started as a simple curiosity, a slightly off-center strike, a tiny doubling of the date, soon turned into headlines. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on these quarters. One man's ordinary pocket change suddenly became a million-dollar miracle. Imagine the tension in the room as the auctioneer's hammer came down, turning a 50-cent coin into a prize worth 6 or 7 figures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A single discovery in a dusty coin drawer led to a cascade of findings. Suddenly, collectors everywhere were examining their 1971 D quarters with microscopes and magnifying glasses. That subtle doubling, that small misstrike, became a beacon for fortune hunters. Some thought they had a regular coin, only to realize minutes later that they were holding the kind of treasure that could transform lives. This coin's backstory is almost cinematic. One collector, a man who had spent years casually picking through pocket change, found his 1971 D quarter in a box he bought at a flea market. At first, he thought it was just another quarter, unremarkable and ordinary. But something about the shine, the depth of the date, caught his eye. He had no idea that his curiosity would pay off in a way that most people only dream about. By the end of that week, experts confirmed what he already suspected. His coin was a rare minting error that could fetch over $1 million. And here's where the suspense ramps up. While most collectors focus on the obvious details, the year, the mint mark, the condition, this coin hides its fortune in the smallest, easiest to miss feature. A faint doubling of the date, a tiny misalignment on the edge, a subtle anomaly in the D mint mark. These are what separate a common quarter from a life-changing coin. Most people skip past it, thinking it's just another quarter from 1971. But for those who know what to look for, it's a ticket to fortune. Imagine the tension when someone unknowingly carries $1 million coin in their pocket for years. How many people have passed this exact coin to cashiers, never realizing the windfall they were holding? One man's casual trip to the grocery store almost ended in disaster when a cashier's curiosity saved the day. The coin could have vanished into the abyss of common change, but instead, it became a story repeated in collector circles around the world. Collectors were shocked when grading companies confirmed the authenticity. Suddenly, that tiny detail everyone overlooked was the key to immense value. Auctions soared. Private sales hit staggering prices. A coin that could have been worth $1 in a vending machine was now commanding attention from millionaires, museums, and investors alike. This is why every 1971 D. Washington quarter in your collection deserves a second, closer look. And yet, most people make one fatal mistake. They examine the coin under poor lighting, or they trust online photos, missing the subtle doubling and misalignment that defines this treasure. You must scrutinize the date, the mint mark, and the edge. Look for irregularities in the D and slight anomalies in the lettering. It's meticulous work, but for the reward, it's worth every second. Imagine realizing that a coin you've had for decades, passed down from your parents, saved in a drawer, forgotten under a pile of bills, is worth a fortune. The joy, the disbelief, the sudden possibility of changing your life. That's the power of the 1971 D. Washington quarter. Dealers are already circling, willing to pay handsomely for even a hint of this error. And the fascinating part? Not all of these coins have been found. There are still thousands out there, hiding in plain sight. But what makes this coin so special is more than just rarity. It's the story, the drama, the almost cinematic suspense of discovery. One slight glance, one careful examination, and you could uncover a piece of history worth $1 million. The coin tells a story of the minting process, of errors that slipped past production lines, and of collectors' intuition and patience paying off in the most extraordinary way. How to identify it yourself. First, examine the D mint mark. Look for any doubling or unevenness. Next, check the date carefully under magnification. Any sign of misstrike, faint doubling, or off-center engraving could indicate this rare version. Finally, Inspect the edges for subtle irregularities, a feature often missed, but critical in authenticating its value. Avoid common mistakes, like mistaking wear and tear for the minting error. Precision is everything. Collectors who have these coins understand the thrill, the heartbeat when the anomaly is spotted, the adrenaline as experts confirm authenticity, the sheer disbelief when an ordinary quarter is valued at over $1 million. Imagine sharing that moment with friends or family, watching jaws drop as the story unfolds. This isn't just collecting, it's finding history, finding luck, finding a miracle hidden in plain sight. This exact 1971 D. Washington quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, maybe in a coin jar, tucked into a wallet, or hidden in a box of old change. And if you find it, if you recognize its subtle secrets and imperfections, it's worth over $1 million. One coin, one discovery, one moment that could change everything.